It's not your lucky day. I'm in a rotten mood.
I know this video is going to get me some heat, but gamers need to hear this. I also don't entirely hate Nintendo. I respect them a hell of a lot more than I do Microsoft, because they actually make games that do interest me a lot more. But with their most recent patent, I feel like I need to discuss just how dangerous this is for the gaming industry as a whole, because even practicing lawyers are saying this shit shouldn't fly. If you've been living under a rock for the past week, let me catch you up. Nintendo and the Pokémon Company filed a patent related to summoning a character and letting it fight another. So let's cover why this is a bigger danger to the games industry than one might think. So right off the bat, we have to cover how this particular mechanic predates Pokémon by a long shot, since this has pretty much been a mechanic in video games ever since the 1980s, with things like Final Fantasy's Summoner class or the whole premise behind Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei. So it's not like either Nintendo or the Pokémon Company invented this mechanic. Sure, other franchises like Digimon have also borrowed this mechanic since the release of the Pokémon games. But this puts into question if Nintendo is going to lawyer up anytime a video game tries to infringe on this patent, which it was granted by the way, given how Nintendo has an itchy trigger finger when it comes to instances where they can't make profit off a game, such as people playing older Nintendo titles that they haven't re-released in years, and yeah, I can foresee this becoming a major issue going forward, because this would mean games like future Persona or SMT titles could be subject to this issue, since, you guessed it, you have your character summoning a demon or persona to do battle with another being, which falls under the wording of this patent. Now, this is speculation on my part, but I think this is partially because Nintendo feels threatened, not just by Palworld, which they've been trying to kill since day one, but also Digimon as well, since we know people are well and truly sick of Pokemon games being mediocre, even if the overgrown man-children continue to eat these games up like Sean Avery's sloppy seconds. But this isn't entirely the main problem with this patent, beyond it having wording that could cause a ton of developers massive migraines. It actually shows just how greedy Nintendo is as a company, because they take the idea of killing the competition to the largest of extremes, which is never a good thing. It's like they've never heard of the term competition is healthy. Guess what? That is actually the case, because it either leads to new innovations in industries that otherwise would be stagnant, or it forces one company that has been at the top for way too long to actually step their game up. Look no further than WWE just before the pandemic. 2019 is widely considered one of the worst years for WWE programming ever, which finally caused fans to look for alternatives, which is what led to the creation of All Elite Wrestling. Say what you will about that promotion post CM Punk being fired, but they did force WWE to actually care about the product again, and as a result, wrestling fans are now spoiled for choice. But to put it back into the current situation, Pokemon games have just been steadily getting worse. I'd argue that has been the case ever since the release of Generation 4. But hey, I know that'll be debated in the comments. But as soon as Digimon started gaining ground on Pokemon, Nintendo was clearly quaking in their boots. Even if Pokemon Legends ZA is going to do numbers no matter how you shake it, the sales probably weren't looking so hot in regards to pre-orders. At this point, Nintendo is acting like the petulant child who's taking their ball and going home, which just goes to prove what I mentioned a few moments ago. Nintendo is being exceptionally greedy here. They want to corner the market, and anyone else even trying to get a slice of the pie can fuck off and die. Seriously, this patent is going to kill competition, even if things like SMT, Digimon, and Persona are hopefully exempt from this. It means we aren't likely to see any new kids on the block when it comes to monster battling sims, and this is truly a bad thing for the games industry. That'd be like Valve or Bungie patenting guns firing in video games just because they were some of the more innovative developers to accomplish that. For Valve, I'm referring to titles like the Half-Life games. As far as Bungie goes, I'm of course referring to Halo, because that, along with Rare's N64 classic GoldenEye, cemented console first-person shooters as being viable. I hope I'm wrong with this statement, but I feel like I've got a Cassandra complex going on here. If you're too much of a pudding brain to know what that is, it's where an individual brings up valid concerns or warnings, and then gets disbelieved or treated in a dismissive manner, I've had this happen a few times with some of my other videos, and you numpties keep running your mouths, so forgive me for going Captain Curmudgeon on your sorry asses. But this patent is designed for one thing and one thing only, that being the utter death of any competition for Pokémon, which means any young developers who may be inspired by the franchise are shit out of luck, which is a bad thing for gaming, because that means we aren't going to see the genre of monster capturing or monster raising games see any innovations. I'm done, and I think more people need to seriously look at Nintendo's business practices and truly consider if it's still worth supporting the company. The Switch 2 also had a lot of stupid ideas, so go and watch my video where I shred that thing to pieces. So until next time, keep blazing that trail.